نجا نجا شخص نجا العصير خلصوا نجا غصن قطع. Here we go. أيوة. نجا غصن أي قطعه نفسه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا. اللهم زدنا علما إنك أنت عليم حكيم. اللهم اجعل هذه المحاضرة حجة لنا لا حجة علينا يا رب العالمين. أما بعد. Today, inshallah ta'ala, this is our 9th class in the book Zaad Al-Mustaq'ni from the author Abu Musa Hajjawi rahimahullah ta'ala. The book is Zaad Al-Mustaq'ni. This is one of the classical texts in Hanbali fiqh, which is the school of Islamic jurisprudence from Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala. We finished the book on water a couple weeks ago. This is what, the 9th class, so maybe the first 6 or 7 classes we dealt with that. On Thursday we finished Bab al-Aniya, dealing with the vessels, etc. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be starting a different chapter. This chapter is Bab al-Istinja. What is istinja? Does anyone know what that is? Not istinja. Istinja. Bab al-Istinja. Not stinja. What is istinja? Purify yourself. How do you do that? According to Islam. How do we do it according to Al-Islam? We're going to talk. I don't want you to answer. It's rhetorical. We're going to talk about that in a minute, inshallah ta'ala. I just want to look at the translation that they have for it. Containers. They say, Bab, go into the laboratory. So we don't speak like that where we come from. We don't say laboratory. We say the bathroom. All right? No one's going to say, I'm going to, not here. Maybe in another place, not here. No one's going to say, I'm going to the laboratory. In any event, Bab al-Istinja. So the first thing we need to understand is, what is istinja? What does it mean? So whoever is studying Arabic, they know that anytime you have in the Arabic language something that says is in the front of it, like astaghfirullah, istinja, the aleph, the sin and the ta, it means you're seeking something. Talabu shay, you're seeking to do something, right? So it says istinja from the word istinja, from naja or najo. In the Arabic language, it means to cut off something. All right, to cut off a harm to you. As it mentions here, it says, min najwati shajara ay qata'tuha faka'annahu qat'a al-adha. It says they cut down a tree as if you cut off something that may be harmful to you. Now, we speak about istinja for a reason, right? Give me a reason why we talk about istinja. Why is it important? I'm sorry? Because you have to relieve yourself. Okay, but what's the significance of why are we talking about istinja? Do you have to make istinja? You do? Because you want to pray. All right, so understand something, that we're still in the book of purification. We're still in the book of purification. And in the book of purification, this is the next portion of it. Istinja, right? You're seeking to remove something from you. some type of filth, right? So we're seeking to remove it. So before we get into this, we have 5 rulings in Islam when it comes to doing certain things, right? You covered that the other night, didn't you? Good, so you know it. Well, what are the rulings as it relates to the things that we do? There are 5 of them. What are they? Wajib. What does wajib mean? So, wajib means it's a command from Allah or His messenger that we must do something, right? Give me an example of something that's wajib. This is green tea? Huh? Salat is wajib. Right. What's after wajib? What else? What's another one? So we have wajib. What else? What's after wajib? Mandub. MashaAllah. People don't know mandub. What's mandub? What does that mean? Sunnah. Okay. Somebody say, brother, that's mandub. What's that mean? Sunnah. Right. So if we give me an example of something that's sunnah. Sunnah al-rawatib, right? So somebody might say, well, what is sunnah al-rawatib? The voluntary prayers that accompany the obligatory prayers. That's the easy way to say it, right? So what's after? So we have wajib, we have sunnah. What's after that? Muharram. What is muharram? Forbidden. That means if you do it, you are what? You're deserving of Allah's punishment. If you do something that's haram, it doesn't mean that Allah will punish you. It means that you have made it halal for yourself for Allah to punish you. Does that make sense? Right. What's after that? Makruh, something that's hated, right? Meaning it's not haram, but it's disliked to do. All right. And then what's after that? No, not halal. Mubah. Mubah, it means something that there's no praise. I mean, there's no reward associated with it, and there's no punishment associated with it. All right. So that is mubah, meaning like for example, right now you're sitting in a chair. What's the ruling on you sitting in that chair? What's the ruling on you sitting in that chair, Sheikh? What's the ruling on you having that phone in your hand right now and looking at me like that? Is there an Islamic ruling on that? It is. It is for sure. What is it? No, what's the ruling? Is it wajib, haram? What is it? So you definitely not paying attention now. So you don't even know. You know yet? What's the ruling on you looking at me right now? Build up. What's the ruling on you sitting in that chair? Huh? Listen, we already know you can sit in it. What's the ruling on it? You don't know the ruling on it? As far as what we were just talking about. You need time out. So the ruling on sitting in a chair outside of the salat, right? Outside of the time, a normal time is mubah. What's the ruling on holding a phone in your hand? Remember, in Islam, everything we do, there is a ruling associated with it, which makes it scary because then you got to think about all your movements, right? What's the ruling on this? What's the ruling on that? All right. So today, inshallah, when we talk about istinja, we're going to speak about that which is mubah, that which is makruh, that which is haram, as it relates to the chapter of al-istinja. Any questions? None. Okay. So the first part, now, whoever has the book, you can follow along. I don't know. I have an extra one here. Here, not. I don't know what page it's on. Here's another one here if you want to use this one too. Huh? Istinja. This one's already turned to it. All right, so you can follow along with the text. Okay? You find it? Let me find it for you. You looking through the table of contents? All right. Oh, yeah, Sheikh. Here you go. It's already turned to it. All right. So the author, he starts off this chapter by saying, يستحب عند دخول الخلاء قول بسم الله أعوذ بالله من الخبث والخبائث. So he starts off by saying, it's recommended, it's sunnah, for a person when they enter into the bathroom. What do you say when you enter into the bathroom? And when they say enter into the bathroom, this doesn't mean once you're in the bathroom you say this. You say this before you go into the bathroom. Is that clear? Right. So it's in the dukhul al-khala. When you're in, and when they say bathroom here, right? When they say khala, khala means that you're in a process of removing waste from your body. So I'll give you an example. If you're going into a bathroom, the way that we see it, it's a public bathroom. You go in there and you have sinks and then you have toilets, right? The toilet area is considered the khala. Why? Because here you're going to remove something from yourself, not when you first walk in. Does that make sense? Right. So it says, yustahabbu inda dakhul al-khala qawl, that is recommended when you go into the bathroom, you say Bismillah, a'udhu billahi min al-khubthi wal-khaba'ith. Bismillah, in the name of Allah, I seek refuge in Allah from al-khubthi and the khaba'ith. Now, many of the scholars of Islam, they say khubthi wal khaba'ith. Some say that these are the male and female jinn. The male and female jinn. They say they are the shayateen, right? This is what is understood when we do this. Now, this is considered a what? Something that is wajib, something that is recommended, or what? Huh? Recommended. This means that if you don't do it, you are not deserving of what? A punishment. Is that clear? So if we do it, then we are what? Rewarded for it. So this is a layup. It's easy. Certain things like this we can do to earn easy reward, because at the end of the day, when we die, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes our souls, we're going to look for it. We're going to hope that we have layups, easy buckets, right? Easy scores that we can put on our scale. That's easy. It's the IT guy right here, mashallah. Huh? All right. It says, "Wa inda khuruji min." When you're leaving the bathroom, what do you say? Gufranak. What does that mean? Right. So, when a person leaves the bathroom, when they walk out, the sunnah is also to say, Gufranak, Alhamdulillah, alladhi adhaba anni ala adha wal wa'afani. Wa'afani. Um, there's some difference of opinion as it relates to the second part of this hadith. Uh, however, uh, for example, the portion of the hadith, the part that of this hadith that is considered authentic is when a person says gufranik. When you leave the bathroom, and if you say gufranik, right? What does gufranik mean again? Huh? Oh Lord, forgive me. What does it say in that translation right there? It's from the word ghafara, which means forgiveness, right? That part is authentic by many of the scholars of hadith. However, the next part of the next part where it says Alhamdulillah alladhi adhaba anni al-adha wa afani, this portion, many scholars of Islam hold this part to be not authentic, right? طيب. When you go into the bathroom, what foot do you use to go into the bathroom? Understand something too, Muslims. Islam does not leave no stone uncovered or unturned, right? Islam is a religion that's very clear, it's very concise, it's very specific. The problem is we may not know everything or we may not act on everything due to our deficiencies. However, when you see something like, what foot do you use when you go into the bathroom? What other religion speaks like that? It's going to tell you what foot you use to go into the bathroom and what foot you use when you come out. That's different. It's different, right? So when you go into the bathroom, what foot do you use when you go in? The left foot. The left foot. And when you leave the bathroom, what foot do you use when you leave? The right. Type. So the author, he says, وَتَقْدِيمُ رِجْلِهِ الْيُسْرَى دَخُولًا وَالْيُمْنَى خُرُوجًا. He says, putting forth your left foot when you enter into the bathroom and your right foot when you are exiting the bathroom. Is that clear? طيب. And then he says, عكس مسجد ونعل. The opposite is for going into the masjid and putting on a shoe. The opposite is, so when you go into the masjid, what foot do you use to go into the masjid? Right foot. And what foot do you use when you come out of the masjid? All right. A person might ask, what's the benefit of that? That doesn't make sense, right? The average person is going to say, why the right? Like, it doesn't make sense. The scholars of Islam, first of all, Nabi alayhi salatu salam, he used to go into places of praise with the right foot. And when he's leaving those places, he would use the left foot. And places of adha, places of harm, he would go, like, for example, the bathroom, he would go into with his left foot and leave out with his right foot. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. However, so when we go into the masjid, what foot do we use first to go into the masjid? The right foot. And when we leave, left foot. When you put your shoes on, what shoe do you put on first? Look how specific Islam is, mashallah. All of these are what? It's a sunnah to do all of this. So here's a possibility of a person to get reward just by doing something easy. Easy. Right? You can get a lot of buckets with that. That's easy. So when you put your shoe on, what foot should you put on first? And when you take your shoe off, which foot? Left. The opposite, right? Now he says, now the next part of the text, the Shaykh Rahimahullah, he says, وَاعْتِمَادُهُ عَلَى رِجْلِهِ الْيُسْرَى. So if a person is using the bathroom, understand something. They don't have, well, they do now, but at the time of this book being written, people would use holes in the ground to use the bathroom. Does that make sense? Even in a lot of places in Saudi Arabia, even now, in many places around the world, they still use a hole in the ground. Not all of them, but some places. So they say if a person is using the bathroom, right, it says, وَاعْتِمَادُهُ عَلَى رِجْلِهِ الْيُسْرَى. If they are using the bathroom and they are squatting, then you lean on your left leg more so than your right. You might say, well, it doesn't make sense, right? You lean on your left leg more so than your right. This is due to the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the authenticity of this hadith may be debatable. He says, "Amrana Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam an nattaqi'a ala yusra wa an nansiba al yumna." He said that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam commanded us to lean on our left sides and raise our right, meaning when you're squatting using the bathroom. And Allah knows best on its authenticity. However, many of the scholars of fiqh, they use this hadith. Here's another thing. A person may say, how then are you able to use a hadith if it's not authentic? Can you use a hadith if it's not authentic? You can? MashaAllah. Who taught you that? Sitting in circles. So the hadith that are not authentic, how can you use them? In what way? He said maybe you have an ayah that supports it. Mumkin, that's possible. However, just strictly using hadith without any ayat or anything outside, there are certain hadith that are not authentic, but we can use them. And the other ones, that we cannot. A hadith that is not authentic, but we can use it as long as it has to do with what? Actions, like righteous actions, like fadal al-a'mal, like doing good deeds and stuff like that. You can use those. And you find many of the scholars of Islam using them. However, when it goes to halal and haram, like you can't do this or can't do that, then we don't use that. Well, there. So anything that has to do with virtuous actions, it's no problem by many of the scholars of Islam. However, if it has to do with some type of action to do consisting of halal and haram, and then we don't do that. Is that clear? Tayyib. Tayyib. Now it says, now we're going to talk about, it says the next part, وَبُعْدُهُ فِي قَوَاءِ وَاسْتِتَارُهُ. So the next part is, if a person is using the bathroom and he's outside, let's say, for example, you're out in the woods, you're camping, what have you. It says, وَبُعْدُهُ فِي فَضَاء. If you're going to use the bathroom outside in a public place, you should go far away from the people. You should go far away from the people. وَاسْتِتَارُهُ. And you should cover yourself. وَاسْتِتَارُهُ means that a person should cover him or herself. I want this and so. All right. So the next part here, the Shaykh Rahimahullah, he says, وارتياده لبوله مكانا رخوا. When a person is, so right now you're camping, you're on a camping trip. There's no bathrooms outside. Then you have to resort back to the books of fiqh. Right? It's like that. Let me pull out my Zaad real quick so I can figure out how to use the bathroom out here. Right? So you're outside, you're in the woods, you're camping, you have to use the bathroom. So it says, وَرْتِيَادُهُ لِبَوْلِهِ مَكَانًا رَخْوًا. First of all, you have to go to a faraway place nobody can see you. All right, that's check one. Check two, you got to hide yourself. Okay, cool. So far away, cover yourself, that's cool. The next part is what? وَرْتِيَادُهُ لِبَوْلِهِ مَكَانًا رَخْوًا. So now you're looking, I have to urinate, but I can't urinate on hard ground. It has to be a place where it's soft. Why? Why is that important for the ground to be soft? The smell? No. Why is it important for the ground to be soft if you have to urinate outside? So it can absorb it. Because if it's hard, what's going to happen? It's going to bounce back on you. Right? So now your garments are now najis. And you don't want to do that. Right? So you want to make sure that it doesn't bounce back on you. Therefore, you're looking for a ground that is rikhwa, that is soft, that can absorb the urine. Is that clear? Tell you. All right, the next part for men, it talks about how to cleanse yourself, or when you're urinating, how to ensure that urine doesn't come out after you finish using the bathroom. So it says, وَمَسَّهُ بِيَدِهِ الْيُسْرَى إِذَا فَرَقَ مِنْ بَوْلِهِ مِنْ أَصْلِ ذَكْرِهِ إِلَى رَأْسِهِ ثَلَاثًا وَنَتْرِهِ ثَلَاثًا. So the next part, it says, when a man urinates, he grabs his private parts with his left hand, not his right hand. Why is that? The right hand is used for what? You eat with your right hand. A Muslim what? Eats with his right hand. And the left hand is used for what? Cleansing yourself, using the bathroom, etc. Right? It says, وَمَسَّهُ بِيَدِهِ الْيُسْرَى. So he uses his left hand, إِذَا فَرَقَ مِنْ بَوْلِهِ. So he uses his left hand and he shakes his private parts until the urine is removed. Right? So there's no more coming out. Right? He uses his left hand to ensure that no more urine is coming out after he urinates. Is that clear? Go ahead. Huh? So just imagine if you urinate and you think you finish. You shake. If you're urinating and you think you're finished and some urine gets on your leg. So you tell me, what do you do? Wash it off. Wash it off. All right. We covered that a couple classes ago, right? With najis. Some things that are impure to give. So the purpose, so here's another thing, and this is important for everybody to know, right? We don't teach these classes to answer your questions. We teach these classes you can answer your own questions. All right. The key for us, if we can give you the little bit that we know, you don't got to ask me, I'm cool with that. Right? Yes. If you don't have water, you can use urine. You can use dirt. Okay. Well, we didn't get there yet. We'll get there, inshallah. Now, mind you, all of this is so that we can what? Pray. This shows the importance of the salah, right? All of this is so that we can pray. All right. So the next part. So now after you urinated, you ensure that there's no more urine coming out. He says, تحوله من موضعه ليستنجئ في غيره إن خاف تلوثا. Now, if you're out, you need to make after you finish urinating, you need to make istinja, right? So if you're out in a public place like this or out in the woods, they say go to a different location so that you can make istinja, right? Why? Because you're afraid that whatever's on the ground where you urinated may get back on you, right? However, if you don't fear that, then you can make istinja in that same place. Is that clear? But what is istinja anyway? Remove what? Remove what? Najis. All right. So we're gonna mention something else, right? The term istinja, because we only mentioned the language term. We never mentioned the shar'i term, the legislative meaning of the word istinja, right? So istinja هي إزالة خارج من سبيل بماء. Istinja is to remove kharij, to remove anything that was inside the body, to remove it once it comes out of the body with water. With what? Water. This is istinja. Again? Yeah, so it says izalata kharij as-sabil, meaning they call them sabilain. When you urinate and when you excrement, it's two places, right? That's called the sabilain, the two exits, right? When you urinate, you must cleanse yourself with water, and likewise when you defecate, you must also clean yourself with water, right? This is called istinja. Now we're going to speak about that in more detail. The part when it's just water is called istinja, and it says wa izalatu hukmihi bihajarin. However, if you remove something, so we have something called istinja, and we have something else called istijmar. Istinja is with water, and istijmar, what is that? Does anyone know? So they say istijmar is to cleanse yourself with rocks. Wait a minute. He's like, wait a minute, bro. We don't have no rocks out here. Nobody's doing that. Cool. When they say rocks, this is what was done during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They had rocks. They didn't have toilet paper. In our time now, it would be considered toilet paper. Okay? If you use toilet paper to cleanse yourself without water, they say that it doesn't thoroughly cleanse yourself. However, it takes the ruling of being cleansed. Does that make sense? I'll give you an example. If a person defecates, right? They use the bathroom, etc., and they only use toilet paper. Is that sufficient for a person to go pray with that? You said no. What do you say? If even if water was available, and they only use istijmar, they don't use water at all, is that permissible? Don't stutter, guys. Is it permissible? Allahu Allah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Is it permissible? If you have to use the bathroom, there's no water there, and all you have is toilet paper, can you just use toilet paper and be good? All right. Does the toilet paper 100% removes everything? It removes enough to make it allowable for you to pray. And this is why they say with istijmar, with toilet paper or rocks or stones, they say it is what? Izalatu hukmihi. It removes the ruling of that thing being impure, even though it may not remove the ayn, the actual 100% impurities, like water, for example. If you just use toilet paper, it's going to clean you, but there might be some remnants. Is that possible? Is it possible for there to be possible remnants remaining after using toilet paper? Yes. However, water will remove it 100%, right? Tight. So then we have with us istinja'u, and then we have with us istijmar. We have with us istinja, and then we have with us istijmar. Does that make sense? Right. All right. So now we're going to talk about the things that are hated, the things that are hated when it comes to using the bathroom that we shouldn't do, right? This is number one. يقرأ دخوله بشيء فيه ذكر الله تعالى إلا لحاجة. All right. So we have a lot of Muslims. They have like chains that say Allah's name on them, right? You never saw a person with a chain with Allah's name on it? Right. Or you may have a shirt with Allah's name on the shirt, or a hat, or what have you. All right. It is hated for that person to enter into the bathroom with Allah's name on it. It is hated for that person to enter into the bathroom with Allah's name on it. Illa li hajata, unless it's a necessity where they have to. Yes. Makruh. Makruh, but most, yeah, makruh. It's hated, right? And when we say hate, who is it hated by? You? By who? By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So then, so it's hated to enter into the restroom, the bathroom, the stall with Allah's name on it. Anything. All right? It's haram to enter into the stall with a mushaf, a Quran. What is a mushaf? When we say Quran, what is a Quran? Just so that we know. If you have the English and Arabic next to each other, is that the Quran? No. What is it? The translation. What is the Quran? No, huh? Yeah, if it's all Arabic in it, that is the mushaf. It is haram to enter into the bathroom with the mushaf. Right? طيب. The next one, وَرَفْعُ ثَوْبِهِ قَبْلَ دَنُوِّهِ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ. So during that time, if they had a thobe on, like what we have on now, or an izar or something like that, they said it is hated for you to raise up your izar or your thobe before you actually go to the place to use the bathroom. And the reason why they're saying this is because your aura or your private parts will be exposed. However, this is referring to a time that we don't live in, right? That's like saying today you have to go to the bathroom and you're pulling down your pants while you're walking to go use the bathroom, right? Nobody's going to do that. You see how you're just like, what? No one's going to do. No one's going to, before they get to the bathroom, they're pulling their pants down. Well, they, right. The next one, wa kalamuhu fihi, speaking while you're using the bathroom. Some people, they might be on the phone using the bathroom. And we're going to talk about that too. All right. A person may be, when we say using it, we're talking about a process of urinating. You're talking to your man in the next door. Yes. Yes. No, go ahead. It's a what question? It's a deep question. How deep? It depends on what your question is, whether we. Oh, put a what?
I said the author of the book, he said that he wrote that he explained that talking in the bathroom was haram.
Right. I'm about to mention hadith.
Yeah, and I wanted to know, like, what, because you know, the author was something, once you put the hadith, it's haram. What made it, what is his, you feel me, what made it to him? It's like,
so you should ask Abu Sajid, inshallah, because he told you that, right?
No, he just went over the author.
So why you didn't ask him? Hold on, let's go get him real quick.
I didn't know the second view of it, which is this light. We only went over when the author said haram.
Tight. So sometimes, if you have a hadith, a Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam could say, Naha an kada wa kada. He prevented you from doing X, Y, Z. The question now is, what type of prohibition is this? Is this a prohibition that means haram, or is this a prohibition that means hated? That's where the studying comes in at. So if all of the scholars of Islam agree that this is the interpretation of this, is that it's haram, then that's what is haram bil ijma', with consensus, meaning it's impermissible for anyone to go against that. However, if you find a group of the scholars saying that it's disliked and another group saying it's haram, then there's a difference of opinion, right? That's it. I'm not going to go beyond that because that's another class, right? But we're going to mention the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where it says, Marra bin Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam rajulan. There was a man who passed by the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, fasallam alayhi, and he gave the salam to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, wa huwa yabulu, and he was urinating. Falam yurudda alayhi, and the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam did not return the salams. Rawahu Muslim. Right. That's the hadith you mentioned, right? Now pay attention to this. And this means fiqh of the hadith, right? Now let's assume that this is the only piece of evidence we have about speaking while urinating, right? Let's all assume that. With this hadith, this shows that a man gave the salam to the Prophet ﷺ while he was urinating and he did not respond. The fact that he ﷺ didn't respond, does that mean that it's haram to speak, or does that mean that it's hated? Understand? Does that make sense? That's where the scholars differ. If this is the only hadith that we have, now we have to ask, well, what's the interpretation of it? So how would you get the interpretation of the hadith? Now you have to look at other books, right? Some of the books of the Sahaba that explain the actions of you have to look through some of the books of hadith and some of the books of athar, like fiqh of the Sahaba, right? And so what you'll find is that they may mention this hadith, and then you find some of the Sahaba speaking. For example, I'm not saying you have this, but you may find a narration where one of the Sahaba was talking while he was using the bathroom. But you also have a narration here where the Prophet ﷺ didn't speak while he was using the bathroom. So this would mean that it was hated, but not haram. Because if it was haram, then you wouldn't find the companions doing it. Right? So this is a whole issue here. Like when it comes to issues just like that. And we're going to cover that, inshallah ta'ala, when we speak about the issue of urinating while standing up. Okay? Any questions about that? All right, so here's the next part. So it's hated to speak while you're urinating. That's number one. While bowlahu fi shaqqin wa nahwi. It's also hated for a person to urinate inside of a hole. Let's say, for example, you're outside and there's a small hole in the ground and you want to urinate in the hole. This is something that's hated to do, right? وَمَسْهُ فَرْجِهِ بِيَمِينِهِ, and it's also hated for a man or anyone to grab their privates with their right hand. For a man to grab his privates with his right hand to urinate. وَاسْتِجْمَارُهُ وَاسْتِنْجَاؤُهُ وَاسْتِجْمَارُهُ بِهَا, to grab his privates with his right hand and to clean himself with istinja, or wiping himself with his right hand. This is also hated. It says also wastiqbalu nirain, and it says facing the sun or the moon while you're urinating. And this is, we'll get into that in different sections, inshallah ta'ala. Now we're going to get into the parts that is haram. It says وَيَحْرُمُ إِسْتِقْبَالُ قِبْلَتِ وَاسْتِدْبَارُهَا فِي غَيْرِ بُنْيَانٍ. It is haram for a person to be outside and to face the Qibla and urinate, or to turn your back to the Qibla and defecate. Are you guys with me? So then we have this is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, do not face the Qibla if you're urinating or defecating, right? And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm going to give you another hadith. There's also the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where they saw the Prophet ﷺ, يستقبل القبلة وهو يبول. That he was facing the Qibla using the bathroom. So we have one hadith that says it's haram to face the Qibla to use the bathroom. And then we have another hadith where we find that the Prophet ﷺ was facing the Qibla and using the bathroom. So how do you make sense of it? How do you make sense of that? Huh? No, it's haram. But how do we make sense of this narration? That wasn't for hajjah. In one case, the Prophet ﷺ was in a building, in a bunyan, and in another case, he was outside. So because of this, here in the book, he says, it's haram to face the Qibla or to put your back towards the Qibla outside of a building, outside of a mebna, outside of a place that's established. Because if it was, that means our bathrooms in our home cannot be facing the Qibla. Right? That's a hardship, wouldn't it? Right. Any questions? No? All right, let's move on. The next part. وَلُبْثُهُ فَوْقَ حَاجَتِهِ. The next one is haram for a person to sit in the bathroom longer than is necessary. If you go to some people's houses, they have crossword puzzles on the back of their toilets. You know, you saw that, right? Huh? You might sit in the bathroom and people have their phones, so they're on their phones on the toilet. Make sense? A person may be on their phone while they're in the toilet, playing what? Candy Crunch? No, they shooting pool. They're on the toilet playing people around the world shooting pool on the toilet. Right? It says it's haram lubthuhu fawqa hajatihi. This means staying in the bathroom longer than what is necessary. Longer than what is necessary. It is also haram bowluhu fit tariq or fi tariq. It is haram for you to urinate in the streets where people walk. Wa dhill nafi'. It is also haram for you to urinate under a tree where people go to seek shade. And likewise, tahta shajaratin alayha thamar. It is also haram to urinate under a tree that has fruit. Why is that? Huh? People want to benefit from the tree. You might want an apple or something. Apple fall on the ground, it's like urine all over. Like, come on, that's not cool. That's not cool, right? Islam takes all of these things into consideration. Islam takes all of these things into consideration. All right. For those who use istijmar, we're going to talk about the proper way of using it, and then we'll be done for this chapter, inshallah. It says, وَيَسْتَجْمِرُ بِحَجَرٍ ثُمَّ يَسْتَنْجِي بِالْمَاءِ. It says, if a person is going to make istijmar, that is using what? The origin is that you use rocks, but we don't use rocks. What do they sell rocks to use a barrier to clean yourself from? No, we don't use rocks. Those rocks today will be considered what? Toilet paper, right? So it says, وَيَسْتَجْمِرُ بِحَجَرٍ ثُمَّ يَسْتَنْجِي بِالْمَاءِ. That you use the toilet paper, and once you finish using the toilet paper, you use what? Water to clean yourself thoroughly, right? So if you're going to use the toilet paper, then after that, you use the water. It says, وَيُجْزِئُهُ الْإِسْتِجْمَارِ إِنْ لَمْ يَعْدُ الْخَارِجْ مَوْضِعَ الْحَادَةِ. Toilet paper will suffice as long as the impurities did not spread past the area of we use the bathroom. As long as it didn't spread past a person's anus, right? If you're going to use toilet paper only, that's fine as long as it doesn't spread to your legs or something like that. Akramakum Allah. As long as it doesn't spread like that, then you can use the toilet paper. طيب. ويشترط للاستجمار بأحجار ونحوها أن يكون طاهرا. So now they're going to tell you, all right, if you're going to wipe yourself, you don't want to use water, even though you should. If you're going to use toilet paper, you should also use water. But if you choose not to, it says then it is a condition that if you're going to use these rocks, that the rocks have or paper, etc., it has to be clean. منقيا غير عظم. So you can't use bone, you can't food. These are things that are not. These are things that in our culture people wouldn't think to do. A person wouldn't think to use, some respected book and clean themselves with it. That's not normal. If someone did that, you would think something's wrong with them. They may have another issues going on, right? You're not thinking about. For it says muttasilin bihayawan. No one's thinking about using a dog's tail to clean themselves, right? That's not normal. That's not even something a person will even fathom where we come from, right? And it says, وَيُشْتَرَطُ ثَلَاثُ مَسَحَاتٍ مُنَقِّيَةٍ فَأَكْثَرُ. If a person is going to use toilet paper, he must use a minimum of 3 wipes, if you will. A minimum. This is Islam. Islam is telling you, this is what other religion can tell you how to wipe yourself and use the bathroom. If you're going to wipe yourself, you don't want to use, you have to use a minimum of 3 wipes. No less than 3 wipes. فَأَكْثَرُ. A minimum of 3 and as much as is needed. As much as is needed. وَيُسَنُّ قَطْعَهُ عَلَى وِتْرٍ. And it's sunnah to stop the wipes on an odd number. To stop the wipes on an odd number. It says, وَيَجِبُ الْإِسْتِنْجَاءُ لِكُلِّ خَارِجٍ إِلَّا رِيحٍ. So anything that comes out of the sabilain, the front or the back, anything that comes out, you have to make istinja except for passing gas or breaking wind. Does that make sense? So a person breaks wind, he doesn't have to go and make istinja. Is that clear? And the last part here, وَلَا يَصِحُّ قَبْلَهُ وُضُوءٌ وَلَا تَيَمُّمٌ. It says that it is not let me see what this says here. I think my book is missing something. All right. So it says, وَلَا يَصِحْ قَبْلَهُ. Right? Let's say a person uses the bathroom, urinates, defecates, and then he gets up, goes to make wudu first, and then comes back to make istinja. This is incorrect. It says, وَلَا يَصِحُّ قَبْلَهُ وُضُوءٌ وَلَا تَيَمُّمٌ. Meaning, you can't make wudu or tayammum until you make istinja. He might say, wait a minute. Okay, it makes sense? All right. Any questions about that? Yes. Go ahead, Sheikh. I'm sorry? About wudu? We didn't get the wudu yet. But go ahead, ask anyway. Before he offers the prayer, he lays back down and punches not in yet. Takes his socks off. After he lays the So wait. I'm gonna repeat it. A brother wakes up in the morning before Fajr and he makes a ghusl. Once he finishes making his ghusl, he gets dressed, he puts socks on, and then what? So he sits down, it's a half an hour before Fajr. Takes his socks off. Fajr comes in and he places his socks back on and pray. Is it salat? Did it break his wudu or not? All right, so here's my question to you. When he laid back down, did he go to sleep? Did he pass gas or anything? So he was aware of what's going on around him? Then it's labets. It's no problem. He could take his socks off and still pray. He didn't break his wudu. Now, if he laid down and went into a deep sleep, I'm just telling you, if he laid down and went into a deep sleep and then he took his socks off, many of the scholars of Islam, the majority will say that by him taking his socks off, he broke his wudu. He needs to make his wudu again. But as long as he did not go into a deep sleep, then he still has wudu. No. Anything else? Right. So the next class, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to cover Babul Siwak wa Sunan al-Wudu, the chapter of using a siwak. Does anyone know what the siwak is? We'll talk about it Thursday, inshallah. Any questions? Go ahead, Sheikh. Right? Mm-hmm. In the woods, you have to urinate. Okay. So you have to hide yourself so no one sees you. Right. Right. Behind the bush, got you. Is it permissible to squat while you're using the bathroom? So many of the scholars will say it's preferable to squat. Just like we mentioned here, when you use the bathroom, when we mentioned lean on your left leg, that means you're squatting, right? Some people say it's even healthier to use the bathroom that way. However, in our society, the toilets aren't set up that way. But if you out in the woods, obviously it's better to squat. In fact, there are narrations that shows that it is hated for a person to stand and urinate, right? I'm not saying it's haram, but some say that it is hated, and Allah knows best. We'll get to that. Maybe we'll get to that, inshallah. Yes. Okay. Anybody else? You good, Sheikh? طيب. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.